Welcome back, welcome back. I'm joined now by one of the most influential public thinkers of our time. Amartya Sen is a professor of both economics and philosophy, who in 1998 was awarded the Nobel Prize for his work on welfare economics. He joins me now to discuss his new book in which he describes a new approach to justice. The book is called The Idea of Justice. Welcome, very good to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much.
What would be your distilled definition of justice?
Well, I think the idea of justice is concerned with the notion that we don't begin by asking what a just society, perfectly just society would look like. We may not agree on our vision of just society, and it's not a relevant issue anyway from the point of view of agitations today, policies today, and so on. We are concerned with how to remove the manifest injustices that exist, on which there could be much easier agreement than a vision of perfect just society, what emphasis on liberty, what emphasis on equality of income. I mean, there's a complexity there which we don't have to address. I mean, when people agitated about the abolition of slavery in the 18th century, or the removal of subjugation of women, they didn't think that the world would become perfectly just if you did that, but they did think that you ought to do that immediately, because we could get a reasoned agreement on it.
And so what is the dividing line, the boundary between justice and injustice?
Well, I wouldn't look at it as the dividing line between justice and injustice at all, David. I would look at it how to increase justice, reduce injustice. So it's not this is just, this is unjust. If that's for the dividing line, then all the societies in the world are unjust, because in one way or another they all fail, and there is no perfectly just society. But then we have hardly any articulation, said nothing, that every society in the world is unjust. But some of them are viciously unjust, some of them are not, much more acceptable, and certainly lesser unjust. So I think all the debates in politics, in practical discussion, in conversation between people, are about how to reduce injustice, how to enhance justice, and not about how, you know, what a perfectly just society would look like.
And when you talk about the plurality of justice systems and so on, and you tell a story there about three children fighting over a flute. Can you recall that for us?
Yes, that's actually, it's an odd story. It's about a flute on which three children are quarreling. And the point of the story is to see that there could be more than one reasonable way of thinking about something. So, and that's an argument as to why a perfectly just society may be something on which we don't get an agreement. One of the children claimed that, and others agree, he was the only one who can play the flute.
So it should be him who gets
yes.
it. Yeah.
And the second one says that, well, everybody else has a lot of toys. I have no toy. I can't play the flute. On the other hand, you will give me something. And all these two other kids, they have huge amount of amenities at their home. The third person said, well, actually, I made the flute with a lot of effort. And just when I finish doing it, they're going to snatch it away on these phony grounds. Now, all the facts are accepted by everyone. But, you know, we could argue the libertarian will choose the one who made the flute. So would the Marxist, even if the libertarians are very uncomfortable in the company of the Marxists in that respect. But the egalitarian will choose the second person, and the utilitarian possibly the first. And they would all be quite sure of their thing. Now, my point really is that any kind of a hope that we will have only one set of priorities or principles on which everybody agrees is not an appropriate way of thinking about justice. In this case, we may not be able to agree, but we know lots of things would be wrong.
And who would you have given the flute to?
Well, I don't know. I'd vary. I'd vary on that, and I would ask. You see, I won't give it on grounds of priority or principle. If it turns out that the person who made the flute worked really hard for quite some time, and it was her life depended on that in some way, it's a big act of creation, that may swamp the other argument. If the person was extraordinarily poor, I may worry about that. And similarly, how much the flute playing ability make a difference. So I think these ends up not being priority or principles in the way that Hobbes or Rawls thought. But there are detailed arguments about how much you benefit, to what extent, and how do you do. And so my argument is that eventually we may have an agreement on whom to give the flute. But it won't emerge on the basis of priority or principles. And it wouldn't be something, the same principle priority would apply in every other case. That's, I think, just the wrong way of thinking of it. We need much more information.
Right, well, thank you very much for being with us. There's lots more to talk about on the next occasion, but thank you for now, and let's ask our people at home. Who would you give the flute to? We'll be back with Quentin Tarantino after this short break.